Hey guys, good evening. Thanks for checking out the IRONMAN 70.3 Eagleman course info, tips and tricks, and Q&A. So speaking of that Q&A, thanks to everyone who has submitted their questions over the last couple days, last couple weeks. Several of those are going to be answered within the presentation, but going to be answering as many as I can get to at the end. So if you have a question now or if something comes up during the presentation, you can use that GoToWebinar widget that's there on your screen. There is a questions tab there. So just use that to submit your question. And again, I will get to as many of those as I can. I know you guys are tapering triathletes, and your sleep is critical. So I certainly do not want to keep you up later than is necessary. So if I do not get to your question this evening, or if something comes up in the next couple days over the next week or so, my email address is going to be on the last slide. Feel free to reach out, and if I do not get to your question this evening, I will be sure to follow up with you via email in the next day or two. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get started. My name is John Mayfield. I am privileged to be a full time triathlon coach. This is what I do, this is my career, and I am blessed to do it. I am passionate about it. I absolutely love working with athletes. I'm certified by USA Triathlon at level 2 as well as Ironman U. And I've had the privilege of coaching hundreds of athletes from first timers to professionals and everyone in between. My wheelhouse is long course racing, so I primarily work, really almost exclusively work with athletes that are racing the 70.3 or Ironman distance racing. That is kind of my niche. That's what I really love, really enjoy the long course racing and all the challenges that presents. So. Again, what I want to do this evening is just share some of my experience, both as an athlete and a coach, to help increase your confidence and reduce your stress as you head into race day. So, a couple tips as we head into the race. First, I want to give a shout out to the race director, Angie. I have had the opportunity to attend a whole lot of races. I've raced a few and I've attended a lot. I've had the opportunity to be on site and work with the vast majority of the race directors on the Ironman circuit, and I'm even pretty good friends with a couple of them. And I will say, Angie is second to none. She literally is the best in the business, and so you guys are really in for a treat. The work that she does, what she puts into the race, really is just above and beyond, and not found elsewhere on the circuit. Everybody does a good job, but Angie does an absolutely amazing, fantastic job. And you've probably seen that just in some of the pre race communications, the athlete guide being updated early. The videos that she makes actually out there on site are really great. So be sure to check those out. They're in the Facebook groups. She's in the Facebook group, active answering questions. So I just have a lot of respect and appreciation for Angie and everything that she does. So, in those days leading into the race, make sure that you're staying hydrated. This race is typically pretty warm. It's most athletes are coming out of the spring where maybe you're not as heat acclimated as you will be later in the summer. But it's always critical that you arrive at the start line in a good state of hydration and then maintain that throughout the race. So you're going to hear me say that probably several times this evening. That's one of my hotbed issues. I really believe in it. I really believe it's a key to success. So this is not the last time you're going to hear me say that. So my recommendation is just to have a water bottle with you at all times in those last couple days leading into the race, preferably with some electrolyte tabs or a drink that has electrolytes in it. My go-to is vitamin water. I'm going to be talking about that a little bit here in a couple minutes, but that's just something I like to sip on in the days leading into the race, just to make sure I'm staying up on my hydration and electrolytes. Kind of in concert with that is limiting time on your feet. So it's maybe not even limiting is the right word, but I would say managing time on your feet, especially the day before the race. There are several things to do. You have to go down and drop off your bike. The day before, there's check-in, there's going in and exploring the Ironman Village, all the cool stuff there. But just know that you're going to be really relying on your legs come race day. So you want to make sure that you are good and fresh when race day arrives. So don't overdo it leading into the race. One of my favorite things to do around the race, either Eagleman or Ironman Maryland, is kind of a excursion over to Washington D.C. and walking around all the amazing museums and different things over there. But definitely save that for after the race. Instead of in the days leading into it. Check out the race course. This course is not particularly technical, but I always think it's a good idea to know exactly what you are in store for. So my recommendation is to go drive the bike course. It's actually a quite nice scenic drive, so it's actually a great way to pass some time in those days leading into the race. So look for things like road quality. Are there any stretches where the road gets sketchy? The aid stations are generally marked with brightly colored duct tape several days prior, so you'll see exactly where those are. And again, this is a pancake flat course, so it's not like we're necessarily looking for any climbs or descents or anything like that, like we normally would when we were reconning the course. But it's still good to go out and see exactly what you're in store for. You can go out and ride a section of the course, get a feel again for what you're going to experience. And then you can also kind of my suggestion is to ride the run course. So just go out. It's residential. It's twisty and turny, so it's not like you're going to be going real fast. But just it's a good opportunity to just go for a nice easy ride, sitting up, not necessarily riding arrow, riding hard, anything like that. But just go for a nice stroll through the neighborhood and see the run course that way. And of course, the swim is visible there from transition area at Jerry Bull Park. And to quote Angie, be sure to read the athlete guide. A lot of good information in there, a lot of questions to be answered, a lot of things that you need to know are covered in there. So even if it's just one or two little nuggets that you glean from that, make sure that you are reading that athlete guide prior to race day. All right, time to head out on to the swim. It's a great swim. Definitely one of my favorites out there. Down at the swim start, water temperature will be announced on race morning. Generally, they're also going to be posting this somewhere in the Ironman Village, usually like the check-in table prior to race day. So you'll have a feel for what those temperatures are in those days leading into the race, and then of course they will actually make the announcement on race morning. So what we have seen over the last several years is it has always been wetsuit legal, but it has been relatively close, relatively near that 76.1 degree cutoff. So it is wetsuit legal up to and including 76.1 degrees. So last year it was 75.6, so about a half degree below that threshold. A little bit cooler in 21, a little bit cooler in 19 as well, but still pretty close. So I would say anticipate a wetsuit legal swim, but also be ready for a non-wetsuit legal swim or a wetsuit optional swim. So keep in mind you can wear a wetsuit if the water temperature is 76.2 or higher, but you will start at the very back of the line and then not be eligible for awards or world championship slots. You're still a 70.3 finisher. You still get everything else, just not eligible for those awards should you decide to wear a wetsuit if the water temperature is 76.2 or above. Race starts at 6:30, so bright and early down there on race morning. It is a self-seated rolling start, so make sure that you are getting down there in plenty of time to get lined up. You will get lined up according to your expected swim time. So there will be some signs down there telling you exactly what those times are. I believe it starts at 25 minutes or less and goes all the way up to an hour or more with 5 to 10 minute increments in there. So you'll get lined up. And then it is a boat ramp entry into the water. So just a kind of a nice, easy stroll into the water as we get the day started. So, a couple tips for the swim start: get cued early. That's pretty much my recommendation for everything. Is do everything early. I'm not that person who is particularly early to things, but when it comes time for race logistics and race day things, I always err on the side of being early. So I like to get down to the race site early. I like to get my transition area set up early. I like to get down to the swim start early, just so that I can make sure I have plenty of time to get everything taken care of. No stress, no worries. If anything does come up, I have time to deal with it. I can get down there to the self-seated queue and get exactly where I want to be without having to fight my way through the crowds, which I've done before. It's not fun. No one likes that. No one really appreciates that person who 10 minutes, 5 minutes before the race start is working their way through, stepping on toes and all that, trying to get up to the front of the line. So get queued up early, and then don't queue slower than expected. So it's going to be advantageous for you to start and be in the water around those that are realistically and accurately swimming at the same pace that you are. You're going to have far less contact, less people swimming over you, swimming over fewer people if you are accurately lining up there with those. So have a good idea of what your expected swim split is going to be, and then line up there. So I've done it in the past where I've either lollygagged around and not gotten been able to get up to where I realistically should be, or I've hung back with friends. And that's well and good and all, but I will say it is a better, faster swim experience if you queue realistically as accurately to what your swim split is going to be. Next tip is a little bit easier said than done. Don't panic. Obviously, no one chooses to panic, but it can certainly happen. It will happen to a certain amount of athletes getting into the water. When the water temperature is in the mid 70s, it's not quite as common as sometimes. When the water is colder, there's that fight or flight response that is triggered when we hit the cold water. So once that water temperature gets into the mid 70s, there's not quite the same, but still, if you're wearing a wetsuit, there's energy, nerves from the day, all that. Sometimes that can trigger a panic attack, or especially for those that are a little bit less experienced with open water. But just know that the body of water is not that deep, and there's going to be lots of safety personnel around. There are some places even where you can stand up. So as I mentioned before, it is a boat entry start. So it's a nice paved ramp down into the water. So recommendation would be, especially if you are more prone to these panic attacks, just take your time and settle in. Don't be in a hurry to get in the water. As you kind of march down that boat ramp and kind of get going, splash some water over your face, just to kind of get used to the sensation of your face being wet, getting acclimated to the temperature of the water. And then, if necessary, do what we call sink downs. So, sink downs are just dropping down under the water, exhaling, blowing out that air under the water, and then returning to the surface in the remembrance that there's plenty of air right up above the water. So, settle in, do those sink downs, do what you need to do. Taking just 30 seconds to a minute will very likely pay dividends if that allows you to go out and have a successful 1.2 mile swim afterwards. All right, so the swim course itself is a one loop swim. It starts, as mentioned, on the boat ramp, kind of at the pointy end of Jerry Boyle Park. It is a counterclockwise direction, meaning you'll start from that boat ramp, come around. That's not counterclockwise. That's clockwise. My mistake there. So clockwise direction. So disregard that. Headed around here in the clockwise direction to the swim exit that is there, kind of more on that south side of the park. This is opposite of Ironman Maryland. Maybe that's what I had in mind when I said it was a counterclockwise swim. So yeah, and that's kind of the rule of the day. Is kind of funny. Is there are several things that are opposite of Ironman Maryland. So again, Ironman Maryland starts here and goes around this way. But Eagleman is that clockwise swim. So kind of a little bit of a diagonal to get started, and then just two 90-degree turns as you head out there. It is brackish water, so it technically is a river. It's the Chop Tank River that the swim venue is located in. For me, this is not what I envision as a river. So if you're not kind of familiar with the layout there, you'll obviously go and see it before the race. For me, it feels kind of more like a bay. It's a little bit bigger than your quintessential river, at least in my mind. So if you're trying to envision what the body of water is going to be, I would call it more like an inlet bay kind of a thing, and it is that brackish water. So brackish water is a mix of fresh and salt water. So it is going to be. It's going to have a bit of a salty taste when you hit it. Not quite as much if you were, say, swimming at like Ironman Florida, Gulf Coast, or we were actually out in the Gulf of Mexico and that's salt water. But it will have a certain hint of salt to it in that brackish water. Water clarity is, I would say, marginal. It's not crystal clear. It's not completely dark, muddy, but it really is a nice swim venue. All right, a couple tips for the swim course. Consider the sunrise when choosing your goggles. So obviously the sunrise is going to be to the east. So kind of depending on which way you breathe, at some point, because this is a circular course, you will be having that sunrise at some point, depending on which way you breathe. If you're bilaterally breathing, you're going to have it for a pretty decent chunk of it. So pay attention to where the sunrise is in the days leading into the race. Know what time you're going to be starting the swim. So remember, the first swimmers are in the water at 6:30, depending on how far back you are. It generally takes 30-45 minutes to get everyone in. So if you're further towards the back, it's going to be more 7:15 before you're starting the swim. And then it's going to be, whatever time it is when you come out. So take that into consideration when selecting your goggles and making sure that you're setting up your success, setting yourself up for success there to be able to sight off of the buoys and sight off some of the shore opportunities to sight. When I'm racing long course or even short course for that matter, I like to break everything down into segments. It's a great big elephant that we have to eat. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So for me in this case, it's just red buoy to red buoy, or it may even be directional buoy. So those yellow and orange buoys that are in between. It may be just a day where I just need to get to that next buoy. But generally, my initial strategy is just from red buoy to red buoy, which those are those turns. And what's kind of nice here is you have a relatively short distance to that first turn buoy. So it's just getting settled in, just getting started, finding my stroke, finding my groove. What does the day feel like? And then from there, it's making it to that next turn, then to the next turn, and then from there, I'm headed to the exit. So again, just kind of a mental strategy more so than a physical strategy. But I like to break things down. I like to be able to make progress and say, yes, I've made this one. Now on to the next. So my recommendation there is to break the course into segments. Sight often. The best way to swim extra time is to swim extra yardage. The best way to swim extra yardage is to swim crooked. The best way to swim crooked is to not sight frequently enough. The water here can have some current to it. It can have some pull. It can have some surface chop, and all that can affect your ability to swim straight. So, kind of depending on how strong the current is on the day, or even the tidal change, it's going to be even more important to sight often to ensure that you are swimming straight and not swimming longer than need to. Find your comfortable place. So keep in mind that hopefully you've cued properly and you're going to be swimming with those that are swimming a comparable pace to you. But find a comfortable pace and also location within it. Hopefully you can find a spot, not too much traffic. It is good if you can hug those buoy lines. Again, that's going to be the shortest distance from the start to the exit. It's going to produce your fastest time. The rules state that you have to swim outside and around those red turn buoys, but the buoys in between are directional. So you don't necessarily have to stay outside of those yellow and orange buoys. So if you're a little bit more comfortable, there may be some clean water in there that you can The support crew may be trying to push you back outside, so obviously comply with what they're telling you, but you don't necessarily have to stay outside of those yellow and orange buoys according to the rules. But so maybe you're a little bit more comfortable swimming just on the inside of those buoys. And then when it comes time to the exit, keep swimming until you touch the ground. The water is pretty shallow there. At the exit, you will have the ability to stand up several yards out from shore, and you're going to see a lot of people doing that, getting in chest deep, waist deep, and walking out. Um, You've been swimming a long time. You're probably ready to get out of the water. But my recommendation here is to keep swimming until your fingers touch the ground. You're going to be much more efficient. You're going to use less energy. You're going to be faster by swimming instead of trying to walk through the water. So once your fingertips touch the ground, then now it's time to stand up and head into transition. Make sure to enjoy this swim. It really is a good one. It's a fun one. In retrospect, for me, this course is one of my favorite swims that I've had the opportunity to do. So make sure to enjoy the swim. From there, you're going to head into transition. So it's there at Jerry Boyle Park, right there on that little kind of almost peninsula that sticks out into the river. Couple tips for transition. Know your location. This is a big race. There are a lot of bikes. There are a lot of racks, and they all look exactly the same to a certain extent. Especially if you're coming out of a great swim, maybe you're a little disoriented. So when you're dropping off your bike the day before the race, make sure to pay attention to where your rack location is. See if you can find a landmark or something like that that will help you identify where it is, so it'll be easy to find when you are heading in there. Be efficient and pack minimally. These kind of go hand in hand. The fewer things you do and the fewer things you have, the better off you're going to be. Obviously, we want to have all the things necessary that you have to have, but no less, no less, no more. Than those things that you absolutely have to have, those things that you're going to be taking with you out there on the bike course, out there on the run course. Practice in advance. Be intentional with your transition. Know exactly what those tasks are that you are going to do and be efficient in doing them. So, putting on your helmet, putting on your glasses, putting on your shoes, whatever it is that you do in transition, practice in advance, get really good at it. We don't want to rush through transition. When we rush, we get sloppy and we forget things or we fumble with things, but just be quick and be efficient. Don't waste any time there in transition. And consider a go bottle. So, this is a great tip that I picked up several years ago from my friends at Precision Fuel and Hydration. Um, so a go bottle, I mentioned earlier that I like to sip on vitamin water in the days leading into the race. And one reason for that is I like the bottles that the vitamin water comes in. And then there's a lot of different sports drinks, different things that have these same kind of bottles. But your standard regular water bottle has a pretty small, maybe dime size mouth on it, which doesn't pour out real fast. Vitamin water and some of the Gatorades and others, they have a much larger, like silver dollar size mouth on them, so that fluid is able to pour out much quicker. So for that reason, those bottles are great for these Go bottles. And what that Go bottle is my T1 bottle. I have generally about 6 to 8 ounces of water in there, and I have a full serving of my electrolytes, a full serving of my nutrition, and so as I am doing all those things that I'm doing in transition, I will grab that bottle and I will chug that down real quick. And that's just going to give me kind of a head start on my nutrition, hydration, electrolytes as I'm heading out onto the bike course. So I've been out there, at some point I took my last sip as I was queued up for the swim start. And then I went out and swam. I was not taking in any of those things, hopefully not too much hydration taking in on the swim, no nutrition, no electrolytes on the swim, maybe a little bit. It's that brackish water, but again, hopefully not. So you've been out there exercising, been losing some of those things, burning calories, losing hydration. So it's important to get your stores back up. I mentioned before how important it is to not only start with a good level of hydration and electrolytes, but to maintain that throughout. So that Go bottle is just a way to get started on that, to start the process and then get into your protocol from there. So again, for me, it's that vitamin water bottle, 6 to 8 ounces of water with my nutrition and electrolytes in there. From there, we will head out on to the bike course. Really neat course here, really pretty, and it really is a nice course. Generally, good roads. So this is not one of the courses where you generally hear people complaining about road quality. So they're generally in good shape. So it's a good, flat, fast course. It is pancake flat. I think the biggest single point of elevation is a very, very, very small bridge that like, and when I say small, it's like it rises like 3 feet or something like that. So you're getting all of your elevation gain inches at a time. So there's not a single spot on this course that is any amount of grade. In fact, there it is so sea level that there are portions of the course that can be underwater if there's any amount of rain or even high tide. Some of the course can be underwater. You can even see if the water is not in the road. You can see where the road is kind of stained from water sitting on the road so much. So certainly it's not the elevation that can be the challenge on this course, but wind is going to be the biggest factor. As you can kind of see here from the map, you're almost on a little island here, surrounded by water. Which is there's really not much to cut the wind from around there. There are a lot of trees on the course. It's kind of a pine forest area. There are trees out there, but they don't always do the best job of cutting the wind. So, kind of depending on how high the wind is on race day, that would certainly be the biggest factor. Now, the course goes in all four directions: north, south, east, west, and everything in between. So, depending on which way the wind is blowing, there's going to be a portion of a headwind, side wind, tailwind. So, you're going to be getting it from all different directions. So, a couple tips for the bike course. It is going to be critical, as I've said before, that you stay ahead on hydration and nutrition. So, um, starting off with that go bottle is just one way to ensure that we're getting a head start and staying ahead of that. So, know what your hydration and nutrition protocol is. How many ounces of water, how many calories, how many milligrams of electrolytes do you need in this environment, and make sure that you are staying up on that. One of the most common mistakes I see with athletes on a race day in execution is not taking care of those three things. Those three things are critical: hydration, nutrition, electrolytes. Once any of those begin to get behind, then your performance is going to suffer. You really need to nail all three of those to maximize your fitness and your potential. And it's really just kind of a tragedy to have a very high level of fitness, a very high level of potential to go out and have a great race, only to have all of that potential sabotaged by getting behind on your hydration, your nutrition, your electrolytes, because bad things happen when you get behind on those. So make sure you know what those are. You have your protocol tested, dialed in, and execute that on race day. Along with that, it is also critical to stay cool. Um, Temperatures are beginning to get warmer. I think the last time I looked at the forecast, the high for the day is in the low 80s. It's obviously going to be a pretty humid environment there on the coast. It's kind of even in a marshy, swampy area at times. So chances are you're going to be dealing with some humidity. It's not going to be scorching hot, most likely, but it is going to be warm. And again, we're coming out of the spring where we don't necessarily have the same heat acclimation that we would later in the season. So it is absolutely critical to stay cool. So this is right along with those other three things. If your body begins to overheat, it is going to begin to restrict your ability to perform. So, along with your hydration, nutrition, and electrolytes, it is absolutely critical that you maintain a cool core temperature. Again, when that core temperature begins to rise, your performance begins to fall. So, have a cooling protocol, know what that is, and stay up on it. Ride Arrow as much as possible. Hopefully, you've had some opportunities to get out on your time trial bike and spend some time down in the aero position, building up the shoulders, the necks, the back, all those muscles that are going to allow you to stay in that aero position simply because that's going to be your fastest position. There's really not a ton of opportunities to get up out of the saddle, get up out of air position when we're climbing or descending, anything like that. I will say some of these turns will be some good opportunities just as a reminder to get out of the aero position. So as much as I say stay aero as much as possible, keep in mind that it is a good idea to occasionally get out of that aero position, stretch your back, stretch your neck, and provide. But there are enough turns. The turns are frequent enough that those are going to be just some good opportunities to get out of the aero position as well as safely make those turns. Towards the end of the course, begin to prep for T2 and the run. So think about what is my procedure, what is my protocol for T2, what are those things that I'm going to do, and then also begin to think about the run. So one thing we can do there is match our bike cadence to our expected run cadence. That's going to get the legs ready to have that turnover. So most athletes are somewhere in the neighborhood of a cadence of 90 steps per minute on the run. So either increase or decrease your bike cadence appropriately. If you can match that 90 on the cadence for those last couple miles, that's going to kind of tell the brain, establish those neural pathways, and then once you come out of transition, you're going to very quickly find that cadence. Another tip here is I will not take in any fluid on the last 20 minutes. So for me, it's about 7 miles, give or take. I know that is the point where I am not going to take in any more, simply because I want my stomach to be fresh when I am starting the run. Now, if I am behind, which hopefully we're not, on any of those three, the hydration, the nutrition, electrolytes, prior to that 20 minutes, I may go ahead and just kind of take a mega dose. I may finish off the bottle that I've got just so that I can have that in. But over that last 20 minutes of the bike, I want that to absorb and settle into my stomach. What I don't want to do is head into transition with a belly full of water sloshing around. And all of that. So take all those thoughts into consideration as you head in to T2. So the tips for T2 look exactly like the tips for T1. Be efficient, pack minimally, practice in advance, and consider a go bottle. My main difference here is my T1 go bottle is 6 to 8 ounces of water. My go bottle in T2 is more like 10 to 12 ounces. Same thing, electrolytes and nutrition in there. And here it really does become a go bottle. So sometimes if I'm feeling really good and my stomach is feeling awesome, hopefully it is, I may just go ahead and chug that 10-12 ounces of water, go ahead and get the hydration, nutrition, electrolytes in, allow my body to absorb that. Sometimes if I'm a little off, my stomach's not quite ready for that, I will take that bottle with me and I will run my first, who knows, half mile, 2 miles, whatever it is. I will nurse that bottle until it's gone. And then for me, I then switch over to the on course offering. So basically, the only difference between my go bottle and T1 and T2 is the amount of water that I'm getting in there. But again, the run is really where we're going to see the implications of all those things: the hydration, the nutrition, the electrolytes, the cooling protocol. So having that little bit of extra in there is a great start. Okay, run course, two loop course. So you'll get to kind of experience everything twice, if not really more like 4 times, because it is an out and back that you do twice. So you'll be seeing the same houses and that sort of thing 4 times out there on the course. It really is a neat course. It's mostly really almost exclusively through residential roads, which does provide just kind of a neat feel. There's lots of folks that are going to come out, kind of camping out in their front yards to cheer. And it is like the bike; it's pancake flat. There's one little section kind of around that 1 mile mark where there's a very small climb, but certainly not anything like you would experience in some of the other courses. Certainly not anything to worry about or really even plan for, just go out and plan for a completely flat run. Uh, it is mostly exposed to sun. There is some shade in the neighborhoods, kind of depending on where those trees are, but it does get sunny. So keep that in mind with that cooling protocol. Keeping in mind how important it is to stay cool. All right. Couple tips for the run course. And this is something that I implement in everything, especially run courses. And this one really sets up nicely for it, is to build throughout each section of the course. So as I mentioned, it's out and back times two. So we have four very distinct sections. And that is what I would use to kind of pace my run through here. So that first, it's about 3.5 miles out to that U-turn point. That would be my first section. That first section, I'm going to take it real easy. I'm probably going to run somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 seconds slower than my goal pace, just to get kind of used to everything. Allow my body to get used to running off the bike, get used to the temperature, get a feel for everything, kind of figure out where all the aid stations are. So again, is this out and back times two? By the time you get to the 3 miles and some change, you're going to know exactly where all those aid stations are. So again, it's just kind of settling in as almost a forced holdback. It should feel like you're holding back and could do more. Then you'll make that turnaround, head back to the park. From there, it's beginning to build. Kind of depending on how I'm feeling. If I'm feeling really good, I'll go ahead and drop down to kind of my expected race pace. But if I'm not feeling that great, maybe it's still holding back a little bit and building over the course of that 3.5 miles back to the park. So now I'm halfway through. I've done that loop once. I know I can do it again. So I'm headed back out. And this is really where I'm going to begin to build, and it's kind of almost where you might even say the race is really starting. This is where now I'm even building beyond what my expected race pace is, so starting to run a little bit faster. And then if I have done everything right, if I've had my pacing right, my cooling, my nutrition, my hydration, my electrolytes, if all those things have been on spot, I'm going to make that last turnaround and know I've got 3 miles and some change to the finish line. And that's when the race gets really fun, because now we're running really fast. So it's kind of smoke them if you got them, let it all hang out. It's only a little bit more than a 5K, which in your training you did a whole lot more miles, a whole lot more running than 5K. So that last 5K one is going to be a ton of fun, but it's just not that much. So it's really if you've paced well, you'll be able to run those last 3.5 miles faster than any of the other segments. And generally what we see is kind of the opposite of that. And that's a mistake, where the fastest segment for the day will be that first one. Those are the athletes that go out too fast and don't pay attention to those things that I've mentioned. But again, if you pace properly and you stay up on all those other things, if you really prioritize and are intentional with your race execution, uh, every segment can be faster than the one before, and that is going to produce your fastest run split. Say it again one more time. Stay hydrated, stay cool. I think I've made the case for that, but that is definitely going to be a priority on the run. By now, the temperature is probably getting into upper 70s, low 80s, maybe even the mid 80s. The sun could be out. It could be quite humid. And again, that is certainly enough to really make the day more difficult and really create the need for those things. My recommendation is to take something from every aid station. So you've paid a lot of money to be in this race. Get your money's worth and take something from every aid station. So for me, my protocol when I am racing 70.3 or Ironman is I will take a gel from every other aid station. So I will grab that gel. I will also take at least one, more likely 2 cups of water to drink down to allow the osmolality to work. And then from there, I'm shifting from hydration and nutrition to that cooling protocol. So every aid station, especially the warmer the day, I will be taking ice and cold water. So what I'm looking to do is cool the core temperature both from the outside as well as the inside. So drinking the cold water, eating the ice, and then shoving ice everywhere I can, under my cap, down my shirt, down my shorts, and then pouring the cold water over my body as well. So maintaining and managing that core temperature both externally and internally. I didn't mention it before, but that also is important to do on the bike. So my personal protocol on the bike is every aid station I go through, I grab a cold, fresh bottle of water. I don't care if I've got a bottle that still has 80% of the water in it. That water is going to be warm, so I'm going to ditch that when I have the opportunity to do so. I'm going to take a cold water bottle. First thing I'm going to do is take a big chug off of it to get that cold water cooling the body from the inside. I'm then going to spray my face. I'll spray my kit, my body, get that cold water on the outside. And then I'll take another big pull off of that bottle. And from there, I may even ditch it if I'm still in the trash zone. I may put it on my bike to use for the next couple miles. But again, my prioritizing hydration and cooling there, that's a great way to ensure that you're staying up on that. So anyway, back to the run course. Plan your aid stations. So kind of as I mentioned, I know for myself, all of the odd number aid stations, I'm going to be taking a gel along with that water. For me, the evens generally where I'm just taking ice and water and not so much the nutrition. So the nutrition is every other one, but it's real easy to kind of get caught up in the race, and all of a sudden you're there at the aid station, and you're like, "Gosh, what do I want?" And it shouldn't be showing up to an all you can eat buffet. You want these to be strategic. So plan in advance, know exactly what it is that you're going to take from that aid station, and that's a benefit of this out and back times two. Is as I mentioned on that first stretch out, if you haven't already identified in the days leading into it, you'll now know exactly where those aid stations are going to be located, so you can better plan for those. From there, we're going to head into the finish. So I think so far all these other tips have been helping you produce your best, fastest race. These are more so kind of fun. So I always say, especially when racing an Ironman event, the race is really kind of over once you step on that red carpet. And this is really what racing is all about. It's enjoying that finish. It's earning that finish line. So clean up, wipe away the blood, sweat, tears, the snot, all of that. Zip up your kit, ditch the cold towels and sponges. So this is where you're going to be on the live stream. This is where the photographers are getting pictures. That's probably going to be your Instagram profile for the next several months. So make sure to clean up and then take it all in. Really absorb the experience. Listen for your name to be called, and try to find your support crew there on the outside. Plan your finish. So, what is it that you're going to do? How are you going to celebrate? How are you going to enjoy it? And then find some space. What we see sometimes is 4 or 5 athletes will kind of enter into the shoot around the same time, and they end up being in each other's pictures and maybe even blocking a picture. So if that's the case for you, if you're coming into that red carpet and there's a couple folks around, maybe just slow down for 2 or 3 seconds, and just have your own space and have that to yourself. Unless you've made a great friend out there and you guys have done the last 10 miles together and you guys are now besties, and that'd be super cool finish line photo as well. So just do what you need to as well. Again, if you're the one leading the race, if you're vying for a world champion slot, yeah, sure, go ahead and get across that finish line as quickly as possible. But vast majority of us are just hunting a personal best or a great day. So taking a couple seconds to celebrate the red carpet really is not going to cost anything, especially if you do it at every race. So that's just going to kind of be on par with the others. And then for me, it's all the high fives. There's going to be lots of kids, spectators, your support crew. I love to run down that red carpet and give out a bunch of high fives. And I always feel a little obligated to hand out some hand sanitizer thereafter, but those folks are sticking out their hands, knowing full well what they are in store for. All right, so that is what I got. We've got a couple questions coming in here. Just as a reminder, we've got a couple minutes left. I will get to as many questions here in the next few minutes as I can. But if I do not get to your question, I will follow up with you tomorrow or the next day, but you will get an answer to your question. If you have a question that comes up, as I mentioned, my email address is here on the screen. It's john@tribetriathlon.net. Feel free to reach out with any questions that you may have. Okay, so a couple of these questions we'll get to. What if I get a flat? Uh, Roads are in pretty good shape. Hopefully this is not going to be a major issue. Now you put a couple thousand folks out on the roads, and inevitably someone is going to get a flat. Hopefully it's not you, but if it is, I guess there's kind of two answers here. There is going to be support out there on the bike course. They will have everything needed to help you with that flat. However, you are basically at the mercy of them being able to find you. This is a 56-mile loop, and there's only a limited amount of folks out there that are going to be support. So you may get lucky, and they may be right there as soon as you pull off to the side of the road. Or you may be unlucky. You may be spending a significant amount of time on the side of the road waiting for them to show up. So, for that reason, it is definitely recommended that you be proficient in changing your own tires. So, would recommend carrying a flat kit or whatever it is for your setup that you need. Should something like this happen, have the equipment that you need as well as the ability to do it. So again, this is something that is really a good idea to practice in advance. If you don't know how to change a flat on your bike, most local bike shops are great about taking time to work with customers and show that, or your tri club training partner, something like that. Learn how to do it. Be self sufficient with being able to change your flat. And as a rule, too, just any other kind of basic maintenance. It's if you've traveled with your bike, you may have some brakes that have shifted, or your bars could shift, something like that. Just make sure that you can help yourself, and then not spend a ton of time um, out there on the side of the road. Should I carry all my own nutrition or take the hand ups? So this really is going to come down to personal preference. One thing I really like about 70.3 racing is, with the setup that I have on my bike, I can carry all of my hydration, nutrition, electrolytes with me from the start. So I am not having to take the on course nutrition or have to do anything like that. For me, it's super easy. I have for me it's 3 bottles as a rule, and I have my dosing, my nutrition, hydration in that. And so for me, I have my hydration, nutrition, electrolytes all dialed in. I know exactly what I need to take in on an hourly basis. So with 70.3 and in the current setup I have on my bike, I'm able to carry all that on my own. So I don't necessarily have to go to the on-course nutrition. Now, it is certainly a viable option. So if you are training with the Gatorade Endurance that is available on course, yeah, sure, take the free bottles. Definitely an advantage of that is that Gatorade they hand to you should be cold, as opposed to a bottle that you've had on your bike for a couple hours. It's obviously not going to be cold anymore. So there is that advantage of having the cold fluid, as opposed to what I'll be carrying is by the end some lukewarm to warm hydration. But as I mentioned before, even though I'm carrying my own nutrition, I still take those water bottles from the aid stations just to kind of supplement my hydration, and that is part of the cooling protocol. So be aware of how those handoffs at the aid station work. Communicate with the volunteers that you're taking bottles or food from. Communicate with those cyclists that are around you, because those aid stations really are where the course is most dangerous. Unfortunately, we see the most amount of crashes in a race like this around the aid stations, because we have cyclists that are moving right to left, left to right. There's bottles on the ground. There's volunteers running around. There's just kind of a whole lot going on. If you're not comfortable taking an actual handoff, you can pull off and come to a complete stop. That's completely acceptable. I always recommend just kind of do like you would do if you were pulling to the side of the freeway. Go ahead and have a blinker, so to speak. Let those athletes know I'm coming over. Get all the way over, way out, and then when it comes time to go back, just kind of like you would merge back into traffic on the freeway. Make sure that you've got a nice, good clearing, and you're doing what you can to not put any of the other cyclists at a risk so far as that goes. With the wind, would you recommend a rear disc wheel? So yes, I would. Now, I am of the school of thought that says run a disc pretty much whenever you can. Oftentimes, the question comes up on the amount of wind and is it safe? Am I going to get blown around? The only race that I am aware of that does not allow disc is Ironman Hawaii, the World Championship in Kona, simply because it is on a very small island in the middle of the ocean where the wind really is blowing. So we would certainly not expect the amount of wind here in Maryland. It can get windy, but it's almost a kind of a misnomer with the disc wheel. It takes a tremendous amount of wind to really move around a cyclist with that disc wheel. What is much more susceptible to the wind, I would say, is that front wheel. So, a couple reasons for that. One, that front wheel is hinged, whereas your rear wheel, where that disc is going to be, is fixed. So we don't have to worry about that side to side movement like the front wheel. Also, that front wheel is going to have kind of depending on your position, around give or take 30% of your body weight is going to be over the front wheel, whereas you're going to have about 70% of your body weight sitting on, stabilizing, holding down that rear wheel. So on a windy day, you're definitely going to feel your front wheel more than the back. So that's why I would argue that your front wheel selection is much more important than the rear. So if you have the option of maybe running a thinner front wheel, should the forecast be calling for a windy day, I would say still run the rear disc, but go with that smaller wheel in the front. But yeah, there's even some you can kind of get into some of the science of it. There's actually some even stabilizing effects of that disc wheel in the wind. There are smarter guys than me that work in the wind tunnels and really understand all the physics and aerodynamics of how that works. But yeah, so I would say short answer is yes. If you have the opportunity to run a rear disc, go ahead and do that. Flat course again. Aerodynamics in this case are going to trump weight. So yeah, that rear disc wheel is going to be a little bit heavier than a regular wheel, but we don't have any climbing to do. So aerodynamics are going to trump weight in this case, and that would be an opportunity to kind of argue the opposite. If you're on a very hilly course with a lot of climbing, the weight of that disc wheel could outweigh, so to speak, the benefit of the improved aerodynamics. So, but again, not a case for this one. So sorry, getting off top there. Are there jellyfish out on the swim course? So probably not. Hopefully not. So Ironman Maryland in September is notorious for having jellyfish. The amount of those jellyfish vary from year to year. I did Ironman Maryland in 21 when there were a whole lot of jellyfish. So generally this time of year at Eagleman, it is not a problem. The jellyfish are not there, certainly not there in the numbers that they can be later in the summer into fall where Ironman Maryland is. So there's certainly the possibility that there could be a few, but again, we're not expecting them in droves like can be possible later in the year. And I will say, I grew up on the Texas Gulf Coast. We've got some big bad jellyfish that can really do some damage. So I will say I was definitely intimidated heading into this water, knowing that there were jellyfish everywhere. Some of the folks got into the water leading into the race, and they got stung. and they said it kind of everyone had a little bit different description, but some said it was like razor burn, some was like sunburn. And what I found was that was really a pretty good description. So it's certainly not overly painful. It really wasn't that bad. It was just kind of like a sunburn, more of an annoyance. So if there are some jellyfish in the water, if you do happen to encounter a jellyfish, chances are, hopefully, your experience will be like mine, and it's not going to be that bad. So coming up here on just a couple minutes, I kind of saved this question for last, and we'll wrap up with this one. Any secret tips? No, not any secret tips, but one of my favorite suggestions for all of the athletes that I work with is to take advantage of the days leading into the race to express your gratitude to the people that helped you get there. So, racing long course triathlon often takes a village. It's usually requires the support of family, friends, training partners, coaches, all these people that really enable us and provide for us to be able to do this amazing thing. So, one of my favorite tips, and again, it's my worst kept secret, is I always recommend expressing gratitude in the days leading into the race to your support crew, and then expressing gratitude out there on the race course as well. So maybe Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of race week. Shoot an email, a text message, make a phone call, just to those people that your loved ones. Those, when the race gets difficult, this is where your mind is going to go. You're going to think about your kids, your partner, your training buddies, your coach, and it's going to be a real blessing to know that you've expressed your gratitude to them, that they know how you feel, they know that you're grateful for the support that you have provided, and then out there on the course. It's really going to have, I would even argue, a physical benefit to be grateful and to be mindful of the fact that there are folks out there that are working. There are folks sitting in traffic on closed roads. So something I try to do is every intersection I go through on the bike course where there are police officers directing traffic, I just have a quick thank you, officer, as I'm going through there. And I know I've heard that that really makes an impact. They appreciate that. So for me, it's just a little bit of good karma out there, expressing my gratitude, and I know that keeps me in that positive state, even when the race begins to suck. Maybe out there on the second loop of the run, if things aren't going well, try to get outside yourself. Find someone else who you can motivate and inspire and keep going. If you got a spare gel in your pocket, maybe it's sharing that with someone who's behind on nutrition. But kind of get outside yourself, help someone else, express gratitude to all those volunteers and everyone who makes the race possible. So I think that goes a long way to really improving your experience, as well as the experience of those out there with you on the race course. All right, guys, we are right up against time. Again, I don't want to keep you out later than necessary. So I hope this has been a beneficial time for you. I hope you've picked up a nugget or two of information that will help you to really enjoy and to perform well out there at Eagleman. It is a special race. It is really neat. I wish you all the best. Feel free to shoot me an email if there's any other questions, anything I can do for you. Have a great race and all the best.